Patnubay ng magulang ang kailangan.
Ever since the television started in the 1930s, it changes everything. Changes the way not just the individual, but the society as a whole. And it's not just the United States or the United Kingdom, or even here. It changes everything. We may know that watching Primetime is the best way to chill, relax, and do whatever it takes to make a colorful life being a couch potato. Primetime programming. We may know primetime programming is the most watched television block of a television network. And whether you are kapamilya, you're kapuso, or kalog, it doesn't matter wherever you are watching primetime programs. But nowadays, you see some scenes that are containing sex, or violence, or language. You may see some sensitive notice. But have you ever seen the word parental guidance either on the upper left or below right? And you know, as far as we concern, the television content rating system is a must-have today. Ever since the television content rating system introduced in the 1970s, President Marcos do whatever it takes to ban anything that is contradicting to his ideas and to some graphic content. In 1985, October to be exact, President Marcos issued Presidential Decree 1986 forming the Movie and Television Review and Classification Board, authorizing the classification of every television programming and movies. We may know in the United States, television content rating system of theirs is located on the upper left corner and it's on a box. But it is contradicting here in the Philippines. So you see in the primetime programs, they got the word parental guidance on either upper left or below right, depending on what the television station had, unless they have graphics below. And that's one, the television content rating system classification they used here. Another one, the general patronage. You won't find this in prime time, and you can find that only in educational shows, but on daytime. And third is the X rating. You won't find this anywhere else, even on cable. And anything that is sensitive or anything that is contradicting against the administration, that's it. We may know in the United States, television content rating system of theirs is located on the upper left corner and it's on a box. But it is contradicting here in the Philippines. So you see in the primetime programs, they got the word parental guidance on either upper left or below right, depending on what the television station had, unless they have graphics below. And that's one, the television content rating system classification they used here. Another one, the general patronage. You won't find this in prime time, and you can find that only in educational shows, but on daytime. And third is the X rating. You won't find this anywhere else, even on cable. And anything that is sensitive or anything that is contradicting against the administration, that's it. So what's the relation between level of exposure in primetime programming and level of awareness on television content rating system? We're so curious about it. We may know that watching primetime after you take some rush hour traffic, that's the only time you go rest, do chillax. And as for the primetime, it has everything. Now, for the television content rating system, we also may curiosity too, because it's a mess looking the parental guidance during the entirety of a program, and we know my part, we hate it. So that's the reason why we decide to make a study about the level of exposure in primetime programs and level of awareness in television content rating system.
Before we end the class, let me read you a quote. Love is our destiny. We do not find the meaning of life by ourselves alone. We find it with another. This was written by Thomas Merton, and he is one of the most influential Catholic writers of the 20th century. Class dismissed. Thank you.
Sagutin mo ako. Mahal mo pa rin ba ako?
Lagi, Joel. Lagi kitang mahal.
The first main objectives of our study is to determine the level of exposure of the respondents on primetime programming.
Second is to determine the level of awareness of the respondents on television content rating system.
Lastly, to determine the relationship between the exposure level of the respondents on primetime programs and their level of awareness on television content rating system.
We prepared and distributed a survey questionnaire to all mass communication students of Cavite State University in Cavite to determine their level of exposure on primetime programs and respondents' level of awareness on television content rating system. After gathering all the information from the respondents, we've tallied it. A Pearson product moment correlation coefficient was used by Mr. Antonio Cinto, statistician of CBSU, to determine the relationship between the respondents' exposure level on primetime program and their level of awareness on television content rating systems.
Problem. Pero kinuha ko na rin. Ito yung age, ito yung gender, your level, frequency of watching primetime, yan, tapos start watching primetime program. So, ito yung level of exposure. So, yung level of exposure, yung number of correct items, tapos pinakategorize into low, moderate, and high. So, there are 6 respondents whose level of exposure is low, while 70 respondents has a moderate level of exposure, and only 37 respondents had a high level of exposure. Yan. Ito naman yung, yung awareness. So, ang ginamit lang natin dito ay mean, saka standard deviation, then frequency and percentages. Then the same for the level of awareness. Then you can place this one in appendices. You only use this as your presentation in the results and discussion. Then this one, we are using person-product moment correlation coefficient. The formula is, are you aware ng No, sir. So, n times the summation of xy minus summation of x summation of y, then all over ito, n times summation of x square minus summation of x quantity square, then n times summation of y square minus summation of y quantity square, where y is level of awareness, then x level of exposure, then n is the sample size. Since the significance is less than if significance is less than or equal to 0.05, you are going to reject the null. Otherwise, greater than 0.05, you are going to accept the null. So in this case, the significance is 0.000, so therefore it is less than 0.05. Therefore, our conclusion or decision is reject the null hypothesis. And therefore, we conclude that there is significant relation between level of exposure and level of awareness. Furthermore, the higher the level of exposure, the higher the level of awareness. Or the lower the level of exposure, the lower is the level of awareness.
Determine the relationship between exposure level of the mass communication students of Cavite State University on primetime programs and their level of awareness on television content writing system. And this study determined that most of the respondents were moderately exposed on primetime programs, and they are highly aware on television content rating system. The null hypothesis that there is no significant relationship between the exposure level of the respondents on primetime programs and their level of awareness on television content rating system was rejected.
O mga bata, kaya huwag kayong mawawala. Hanggang sa susunod nating pagkikita, paalam!
This is Virgia Arenas.
This is Emmanuel Mecua.
And this is Joe Umar Charlie Maligayo.
And this is our study.